That is, how are you taking traditional advertising and measuring what it does to your digital space? So, how do you recommend that marketers that are doing a lot of traditional advertising right now measure how that is lifting their digital performance, and what are some of the kind of metrics that they can measure that with?
There's really kind of two ways to do attribution in general speaking. By attribution, what we mean is the ability to tie specific sales or revenues, for example, to specific channels of marketing. And it's kind of, I would say, the general definition of attribution. How do you attribute the success of your sales efforts across your different media, which presumably, and probably everyone agrees here, should be kind of working together, and that you shouldn't be trying to measure those silo by silo by silo, which is actually very kind of counterproductive to your company. Just a very simple illustration of that is, if all of the awareness of your website is driven by TV, okay, and you can't necessarily measure the direct ROI of your TV, somebody, this doesn't happen, but I'm just kind of putting up as a straw man, you might whack your TV, and that would kill your website. And so you have to kind of consider those kind of cross-channel interdependencies. How you measure the actual attribution, there's a couple different ways. First of all, there's kind of the what I refer to as kind of the hard tracking methodologies, which is tracking codes in online that sometimes are associated with offline media occasionally. Those are certain methodologies. In online, of course, those are very, very kind of prevalent, whether you're tracking keywords in search engine marketing or display ads and that sort of thing. So what I refer to as kind of the hard tracking methodologies. And trying to figure out whether people have been touched across multiple of those particular methodologies is very, very important. Another kind of illustration of that, sometimes coming from a search engine marketing standpoint, we make the claim, I think justifiably, that search engine marketing oftentimes drives sales into other channels, because people go onto the engines and they research things, and then they go to a retail store or they make a phone call or something like that. But it looks like search is doing nothing because nobody's converting in that search channel. Well, how do you actually kind of prove that search is critical there? Well, one methodology is that when somebody does an order, you send them a confirmation email, and that they have to open that confirmation email, and then the cookie, since you placed a cookie on them when they did their search and came onto your website, that cookie fires when the email is there. We know then that they were already on our site looking at search, and we can kind of tie those channels together. So that's kind of a method for doing that. Those are kind of illustrations of what I would call hard-coded methods of tracking. It's literally kind of a database that tries to kind of follow people around. And there's dozens and dozens of different kinds of iterations of that across the different channels. The second methodology, which is more soft, although it's actually more technical in certain ways, is like using statistical estimation. So what you do is basically, perhaps everyone in here has taken a statistics class. What you're doing is basically correlating the amount of traffic or effort across different kinds of channels, such that if your gross rating points go up in TV, what happens over on your search side? If you end up spending, sending a direct mail out, what happens in search? What happens to your telesales, etc.? There's no actual physical kind of data linked necessarily between those particular channels, but you can use kind of statistical models to kind of figure that out. And there's a way, I'm not going to kind of create a stampede and people out the door talking about kind of technical stuff, but there's a way that you can actually kind of decompose and kind of chop into pieces. You could have one sale and you can say 50% of that was due to TV, 20% was due to this, 10% was due to this. And you take that sale and you figure out how much you're spending over on the TV and direct mail side, and you get your ROI that way. So those are kind of the two methodologies that I've been involved with from kind of a analytical standpoint in terms of figuring out that attribution question.
Yeah, I mean, that incremental growth that you're talking about is something that, you know, we've measured too, so we can take a look at, I mean, whether it's Google Analytics or Omniture or whatever web analytics package you're using, we can take a look at organic, and I know that if I double my paid search budget, my organic, and I've been looking at this over the last 6 months, so if I know that I've grown my paid budget by a specific percentage, what I'm looking at is to see on the organic side, through that tracking that Pat was talking about, how much growth am I getting from that, and that helps to actually give value to the organic and then help to justify the efforts that we put into it. So, you know, I mean, it even goes as far as breaking it down to, you know, the salary that it takes for that person to, you know, make all of those organic changes for you, you know, that SEO expert in house. It's justified by looking at that organic traffic increase, and the same goes for anything else that you're involved in too. So, you know, our newsletter, you know, email team, you know, they're putting out an X number of newsletters a week, and when we see that they missed one, or, you know, there's a holiday, or there's a specific contest, when we see that happen, we definitely see that boost to organic. So a lot of the things that we do online, because I can't speak as much to the offline traditional stuff, sorry, but you know, a lot of what we do online can really help to drive the organic and vice versa, and we can see that through that tracking. But for us, the offline isn't really something we can measure unless we know that we were going to be in a print publication and it's only for a month's time period, and, you know, we've done nothing else. And that will never happen, because to Pat's point, you're never going to completely isolate something for the purposes of seeing if it works. So.
As much as we want them to do something.
Yeah. Tried that a million times. Yeah.
From my perspective, I'm not always privy to the whole picture of things that like these two are. So for myself and a lot of the online campaigns that we do, it's a matter of simply measuring the click. That's the attribute. You can follow it through, you can track it to once they get to your site, you know, are they bouncing off, are they staying, are they going to step 2, are they going to step 3? You know, it gets, again, kind of granular that way, but for online, typically, that's how a lot of clients are measuring it, that aren't quite as advanced as, you know, ModCloth and his clients. So, you know, don't be alarmed if you can't make the connection. The click, it is important. You know, it's much more important when you can measure that as opposed to the soft references sometimes that you can make with traditional media. And another point I just wanted to bring up with the attribution is with the increase in social media. I mean, that's having a huge impact on buyers, and that's really sometimes very difficult to figure out. You know, I went to Facebook and I liked somebody's ad and they clicked and went all the way through and thought, you know what, my friend Mandy really likes that, I'm interested too, and I go and buy something from ModCloth. Like, that sometimes, you can get the referral when you're looking at your site links, but you know, it's difficult to measure those things sometimes.
Yeah, we actually do see that, and we track. We have a huge online presence. It's insane how, like, our customer base is so engaged, which is great. So, you know, yeah, just like Nicole was saying, we're following that through all of the tag links that we have on Facebook and Twitter as well. So I see when there's been this huge chain of discussion on Twitter, I see that our traffic for the day has gone up, you know, like incrementally for the other social media outlets that we have, and that's easily tracked. But I wouldn't, we can't account for all of it. So those things like the likes and, you know, just that stuff